When I first saw her eyes in the dim light of the strip club, I couldn't imagine that in a year I'd be standing at my own bedroom door, listening to my heart tear into pieces. But let me start from the beginning. My name is Ruben, and 2 years ago I was just an ordinary 30-year-old engineer from Jacksonville, spending weekends at the beach trying to escape the routine. That's where I saw Sylvia, a tall brunette with a smile that took my breath away. We started talking by the water and I felt like it was fate. The first months were like a fairy tale. She was fun, spontaneous, unpredictable. But after 3 months, she confessed that she worked as a dancer at one of the clubs downtown. I froze. My girlfriend shows her body to strangers for money? The first reaction was disgust, but Sylvia cried, said it was temporary, that she was saving for education. And I fell in love so deeply that I decided to accept it. 6 months later, I proposed. The wedding was modest but happy. I thought our love would conquer everything. How naive I was. The first year of married life passed unnoticed. Sylvia continued working at the club, I worked at the factory. We lived in my house, which I had bought before meeting her. The money was decent but not excessive, typical middle class. I tried not to think about how every evening dozens of men's eyes slid over my wife's body. And then something strange began. Sylvia became somewhat distant. Not cold, no, she still kissed me goodbye, cooked dinner, smiled. But something changed. Intuition screamed that something was wrong, but I couldn't understand what exactly. It was the calmest day before the storm. That Wednesday evening changed everything. It was 2 in the morning when a sound woke me up, the quiet ring of Sylvia's phone. She was sleeping next to me but suddenly woke up, grabbed her phone and quickly left the room. I pretended to be asleep, but my heart was already pounding like crazy. Through the cracked door, I heard her whisper, "Owen, I can't talk right now." "He's here." "Yes, of course, me too. Tomorrow after my shift?" "Okay, I love you." "What? Who the hell was that?" I lay motionless, feeling a cold wave wash over me completely. When she came back to bed, I still pretended to be asleep, though every cell in my body screamed with pain and anger. The next few days I lived in some surreal nightmare. I tried to find evidence, checked her phone when she was in the shower, searched email, social media. Nothing. Sylvia turned out to be careful. She deleted everything without a trace. Then I decided to act differently. On Friday morning, I told her I was going on a business trip to Orlando for a week. She didn't even flinch, just nodded and kissed my cheek. This should have alerted me even more. I drove to my best friend Marcus and told him everything. He handed over his car without hesitation, a gray sedan that Sylvia wouldn't recognize. And I returned home during the day when she wasn't there and placed 3 mini cameras with image transmission to my phone around the rooms. One in the living room, the second in the hallway, the third in the bedroom. If she brought someone home, I would know. The next 3 evenings I parked a block away from the club where Sylvia worked and waited. The first 2 nights nothing happened. She came out at 2 in the morning, got in her car and drove home. The cameras in the house also showed everything was calm. She came in, ate something in the kitchen and went to bed. But on Saturday, the day before her day off, something changed. I sat in Marcus's car, finishing my 3rd coffee of the evening, when at 2:30 Sylvia came out of the club. She was in jeans and a jacket, hair loose. A minute later, a man came out after her, tall, in an expensive suit with a perfect haircut. He got into a black BMW and my stomach clenched. This was exactly the type of man who comes to such clubs with fat wallets. Sylvia drove off first. The BMW followed her. And I followed them both. I didn't need to be Sherlock to guess where they were going. Familiar turns, familiar streets. They were driving to my house. To our house. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. So she really decided to bring him there, thinking I was in Orlando. Naivety or audacity? Or did she simply not care? I drove past the house and parked 2 blocks away. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app. My hands were shaking. On the screen I watched them enter. Sylvia was laughing, he was holding her waist. In the living room they opened a bottle of wine. My wine, by the way, which I had bought for our anniversary. They sat on the couch, talked, drank. His hand lay on her thigh. I watched all this, feeling something inside me break completely. This wasn't anger. This was something worse. Emptiness. That was the moment when I understood. There was no going back. 20 minutes later they stood up. He kissed her, long, passionately. And then they went into the bedroom. Into our bedroom. I started the engine. Time to act. I drove to the house without headlights, parked 2 houses away from mine. The phone still showed the broadcast from the bedroom, but I wasn't watching anymore. I didn't need those details to understand what was happening. I quietly opened the front door with my key. Music was playing inside, she probably turned it on to drown out the sounds. I took off my shoes and silently walked down the hallway to the bedroom. At the door, I stopped, took a breath, and abruptly opened it, simultaneously turning on the light. The picture was exactly what I expected. Sylvia and the stranger in our bed. Their faces in shock, priceless. The man started, grabbing for the blanket. Get out. Both of you. Right now. I didn't recognize my own voice. It was cold dead. The man grabbed his clothes, pulled on his pants right there, and dashed to the exit without even looking back at Sylvia. The BMW drove out of the driveway at such speed as if the police were chasing him. Sylvia sat on the bed, pressing the sheet to her chest. Tears ran down her face. Ruben, I can explain everything. It's not what you think. Not what I think? I laughed, but that laugh was terrible even to me. So you're not sleeping with another man in our bedroom? Did I see something wrong? It happened by itself. Owen had been coming to the club for several months in a row, leaving huge tips. We started talking. Owen, I repeated the name I already knew. A banker, right? With a BMW and a fat wallet? She stared at me in surprise. How do you? Doesn't matter. Pack your things. You have an hour. Ruben, please. I love you. It was a mistake. A mistake. I came closer. A mistake is when you forgot to buy milk. What you've been doing for the last months, that's a choice. Your conscious choice. She tried to grab my hand, but I jerked it away. There's one more thing, I said quietly. 3 weeks ago you went to the doctor. I saw the bill in your purse. Reproductive health clinic. Sylvia went pale. You were pregnant with his child? And you had an abortion without even telling me? I didn't know whose it was. You and I also. Get out, I interrupted her. No. And if in an hour you're still here, I'll call the police. She packed her things, sobbing, begging me to give her one more chance. But I stood cold and motionless like a statue. When the door closed behind her, I sank to the floor and for the first time that night allowed myself to cry. But the sobbing didn't last long. I wiped my face and got to work. The lawyer Marcus recommended was a tough professional. Since I bought the house before marriage, it remained mine. Our marriage lasted less than a year, there were no shared children or accounts. The divorce went quickly. But the most interesting part started after that. Through an acquaintance, I learned that Owen worked at a prestigious bank downtown. He was married and had 2 children. Interesting movie, right? I thought things couldn't get worse, but I didn't do anything right away. I waited 2 months. During this time, I found out that Sylvia was renting an apartment in a not-so-great neighborhood, and Owen continued living his normal life with his family. They met secretly, in motels at her apartment when his wife thought he was at work. Then I did what I had been planning for a long time. I gathered all the evidence, recordings from the cameras, photos of his car near the club and near Sylvia's apartment, dates and times of meetings, and sent it all to Owen's wife. Anonymously. The scandal exploded spectacularly. Owen's wife turned out not to be one of those women who quietly swallow an insult. She filed for divorce and demanded everything: the house, cars, custody of the children, alimony. But the most interesting part, she worked at a law firm that serviced Owen's bank. Through her connections, the bank's management learned about the situation. And the combination of a scandal with a stripper mistress and family drama didn't fit the corporate image of a prestigious institution. Owen was fired under the pretext of staff reduction. But I didn't stop there. Through the same acquaintance, I passed information about their relationship to the owner of the club where Sylvia worked. It turned out the club had strict rules about dancers' relationships with clients outside the workplace. It ruined the establishment's reputation. Sylvia was also fired. And the best part was ahead. And then, even worse. When Owen lost his job and money, it turned out that Sylvia wasn't ready to live with him in poverty. She was used to his generous gifts to restaurants and trips. When he proposed to formalize their relationship officially, she refused. Said she needed time. And then she just disappeared from his life. I learned about this from Marcus, who accidentally ran into Owen at a bar. He sat drunk, complaining about women and how life was unfair. Lost his family, job, mistress, everything in a few months. And Sylvia tried to contact me. Called, wrote messages. Said she understood her mistake, that I was the only one who really loved her. But I didn't respond. Blocked her everywhere. Another 6 months passed. I gradually began to restore my life. Every morning I stopped by a small coffee shop near work, where a barista named Emma always smiled and knew my favorite order by heart. We started talking, first about the weather, then about books, music, life. Emma was the opposite of Sylvia. Not a luxurious beauty, but a quiet, ordinary girl with warm brown eyes and a sincere smile. She was studying psychology part-time and working as a barista on the side. She dreamed of helping people, opening her own psychological support center someday. We started dating. No rush, no illusions. Just two people enjoying each other's company. The relationship developed slowly but steadily. Emma knew about my past, about Sylvia, about everything. She listened without judgment, gave me time to heal. We spent evenings in quiet cafes, walked along the ocean, talked for hours about everything in the world. Her parents, Linda and Thomas, turned out to be wonderful people. They welcomed me into their family as if I had always been part of it. Linda often invited us for Sunday dinners, where the whole family gathered, Emma's younger brother Jake, her older sister Rachel with her husband and kids. It was so different from what I had with Sylvia. That relationship was passion, fire, chaos. With Emma it was peace, stability, warmth. And I realized that this was exactly what I needed. Meanwhile, life wasn't being kind to Sylvia and Owen. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned details that I couldn't have invented even if I tried. Owen, after losing his job, couldn't find anything comparable. His resume was tainted. In banking circles, everyone knew everyone and rumors spread fast. He ended up working as a manager at a car dealership with a salary 3 times less than what he had before. His ex-wife took everything in the divorce. The house, 2 cars, most of the savings. He was left with an old apartment that had belonged to his mother and child support that ate up half his paycheck. When he turned to Sylvia hoping for support, she literally laughed in his face. "I didn't leave my husband for this," she said. Those were her exact words, which Owen later told Marcus in that same bar during another drinking session. Sylvia tried to return to the strip club, but the owner refused. The industry was small, everyone knew each other, and her reputation was ruined. She ended up working as a waitress in a roadside diner, earning tips from truckers. She tried to find another wealthy patron, but it wasn't that simple anymore. She was older, tired, the sparkle in her eyes had gone out. The men who had once thrown money at her feet now looked right through her. One day I saw her at the supermarket. She was standing in line with a basket of cheap products, wearing an old jacket, no makeup. Our eyes met. She wanted to say something but I just walked past. Emma was next to me and we had just been discussing wedding plans. What happened after that moment? Her life was never the same. A month later Marcus called me. He said Owen had tried to contact me through him. Wanted to apologize, to talk. I refused. What was there to talk about? About how he destroyed my marriage. About how he lost everything himself. Marcus said Owen looked awful. He had aged 10 years in one, started drinking, lost weight. His children didn't want to see him, his ex-wife hated him, his career was destroyed. He said he understands now that Sylvia wasn't worth it, Marcus told me. That he destroyed his whole life for a woman who threw him away like a used tissue when the money ran out. I felt no pity. No satisfaction either. Just emptiness. The wedding with Emma was simple and beautiful. Intimate ceremony on the beach, close friends and family. Emma was radiant in a simple white dress, her hair loose, barefoot on the sand. We exchanged vows we wrote ourselves. I promised to always be honest, to never betray her trust, to build with her a life based on respect and love. She promised the same. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," I looked into Emma's eyes and saw my future. Real, honest, without lies and betrayals. The reception was at a small restaurant by the ocean. Emma's parents gave a toast, Marcus gave a toast, everyone laughed and cried happy tears. It was one of the happiest days of my life. A year later our daughter was born. We named her Sophie. When I first held her in my arms, I understood what it meant to truly love. Not that superficial, passionate love I felt for Sylvia, but deep, unconditional love that makes you want to be better. Emma returned to university and finished her psychology degree. I got promoted at work. We bought a bigger house in a good neighborhood with good schools. Life was coming together piece by piece. I sometimes thought about that night when I opened the bedroom door and saw Sylvia with Owen, about how my world collapsed in one moment. But I understood now that it wasn't a collapse, it was liberation. Sylvia did me a favor by cheating. She freed me from an illusion, from a relationship that had no future. If it hadn't been Owen, it would have been someone else. Because Sylvia was chasing something I could never give her, that constant thrill, that feeling of new conquest, unlimited money and luxury. 2 years after the divorce, I ran into her again. I was at the park with Emma and Sophie. We were having a picnic. Sophie was learning to walk, falling down and getting back up, laughing. Sylvia was sitting on a bench alone. She looked tired, older than her years. Our eyes met, and in that moment I saw everything, regret, pain, realization of what she had lost. She stood up and started walking toward us. Emma noticed and tensed up. "It's okay," I said, squeezing her hand. "She can't hurt us anymore." Sylvia stopped a few feet away. Looked at me, at Emma, at Sophie. "She's beautiful," she said quietly, nodding at our daughter. "Thank you," Emma responded before I could say anything. My reaction shocked even her friends. "Reuben, Sylvia began but stopped. What could she say? That she was sorry? That she made a mistake? Words were too small for what she had done. "I hope you're happy," she finally said. "You deserve it." She turned and left. I watched her go, feeling absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, no satisfaction. Just calm. "Are you okay?" Emma asked. "Yes," I answered. "Better than ever." And it was true. My life wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was built on trust, respect, love. Not on lies and betrayal. Sylvia and Owen got what they deserved. Not through some dramatic revenge, not through lawsuits or scandals. Well, not only through that. They destroyed their own lives by chasing an illusion. They lost everything that mattered: family, career, respect, trust. And I found everything I didn't even know I was looking for. A woman who loved me for who I was, not for what I could give her. A family I could trust. Peace that I didn't know existed. Sometimes the best revenge is not revenge at all. It's just living well, building happiness, and letting others watch how you create what they destroyed. And the ending of this story surprised even me. 3 years after the divorce, Marcus called me again. Owen had died. Heart attack at 45. He was found in his apartment, alone, with empty bottles around him. The funeral was small. His children didn't come, his ex-wife didn't come. Just a few former colleagues who felt obligated. Sylvia came to the funeral. Marcus said she cried, looked devastated. But whether it was genuine grief or just realization that she had nowhere else to fall, who knows? I didn't go to the funeral. What would be the point? Owen was a stranger to me, a man who made a choice that destroyed 2 families. I felt no joy from his death, but no sorrow either. Life continued. Sophie started preschool. Emma opened her psychological support center, small but successful. I continued working, providing for our family. We were planning another child. Sometimes, on quiet evenings when Sophie was asleep and Emma and I sat on the porch with wine, I thought about that path I had walked. About how one night changed everything. About how betrayal that seemed like the end of the world turned out to be the beginning of a new, better life. You couldn't guess how it would all end. I never saw Sylvia again after that meeting in the park. I heard she left Jacksonville, moved somewhere south. I hoped she found peace, found a way to forgive herself. Not for me, I had already forgiven and forgotten. But for herself. Because living with the knowledge that you destroyed everything good in your life for momentary passion, that's a punishment worse than anything I could have come up with. And Owen? He paid the ultimate price for his choices. His children grew up without a father, his ex-wife had to rebuild her life from scratch, and he himself lost everything: family, career, health, life. Was it worth it? Those stolen nights with someone else's wife? That passion that burned bright and fast like a match? I don't think Owen would have said yes if he could have turned back time. But time doesn't go backward. We live with the consequences of our choices. And the most important choice we make is who we become in the face of betrayal. Victims who remain broken forever, or people who find the strength to rebuild, to forgive, and to move forward. I chose the second path. And that choice gave me everything: love, family, peace, happiness. What happened to Sylvia and Owen? That's worth hearing. Years later, Sophie asked me why she didn't have a grandmother on my side. Emma had prepared me for this conversation, helped me find the right words. Sometimes people make mistakes, I told my daughter. Big mistakes that hurt others. But we learn from these mistakes and try to be better. Did you make mistakes, Daddy? Sophie asked, looking at me with her big blue eyes, Emma's eyes. Yes, I answered honestly. I chose someone for the wrong reasons. But that mistake led me to your mother. And to you. Sophie smiled and hugged me. Then I'm glad you made that mistake. Children see the world so simply. For them, everything has its place, its meaning. And maybe they're right. Maybe all those painful moments, all that betrayal and pain, maybe it all had meaning. To lead me here, to this moment, to this life. Emma and I recently celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary. We returned to that beach where we got married, just the 2 of us, while Emma's parents watched Sophie and her younger brother Max, who was born 2 years ago. Before I continue, please pause the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new interesting stories. Thank you. We walked along the water's edge, hand in hand, silent. There was no need for words. We both understood that we were lucky, not because life was easy but because we chose each other every day. Even when it was hard. Even when the past tried to catch up with us. That evening, watching the sunset, I thought about how strange life is. How one moment can change everything. How one wrong choice can lead to the right path. Sylvia thought she was choosing a better life when she chose Owen. In reality, she was choosing loneliness, regret, and emptiness. Owen thought he was choosing passion and excitement when he pursued a married woman. In reality, he was choosing the destruction of his family, career, and ultimately his life. And I thought I was losing everything when I opened that bedroom door. In reality, I was finding everything I didn't even know I was looking for. Life has a strange sense of humor. It takes away what we think we need and gives us what we actually need. And wisdom lies in being able to recognize that gift, even when it comes wrapped in pain. I looked at Emma. She was smiling, watching the waves. The wind played with her hair. She was beautiful, not with that flashy, attention-grabbing beauty like Sylvia, but with a quiet, deep beauty that doesn't fade with time, that only grows stronger. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, noticing my gaze. "About how lucky I am," I answered. "We both are," she corrected. And she was right. We both were. Because real luck is not avoiding pain and betrayal. Real luck is finding someone who makes you want to be better, who supports you in difficult moments, who builds the future with you, not destroys the present. Sylvia and Owen looked for happiness in the wrong places. In passion, excitement, money. And they found only emptiness. Emma and I found happiness in simple things. Morning coffee, children's laughter, quiet evenings, shared plans. And that happiness turned out to be much stronger and more lasting than any passion. This is a story about betrayal. But also about redemption. About how sometimes the worst thing that happens to us leads to the best. About how pain can become a teacher. About how an ending can become a beginning. Sylvia taught me what I don't want. Emma taught me what I do want. Owen taught me what happens when you chase illusions. Marcus taught me what real friendship means. And life taught me that sometimes you have to lose everything to gain everything. I don't know where Sylvia is now, what she's doing, whether she's happy. I hope she found her peace. Not with someone but within herself. I don't think about Owen anymore. His story ended and it ended sadly. But he chose that ending himself with every decision he made. My story continues. With Emma by my side, with our children, with the life we build together every day. And if I could go back in time to that evening when I met Sylvia on the beach, would I change anything? No. Because every step, every mistake, every moment of pain led me here. To this life. To this family. To this happiness. And that's worth more than anything. Sometimes the best revenge is not revenge at all. It's just living. Living well, living fully, living honestly. And letting others observe how you build what they destroyed. How you create beauty from ashes. How you find light in darkness. That's what I did. And that's the best ending I could have imagined. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.